Welcome back to Simplifying the State. I'm Adam Watson.
I'm Nicholas Parham.
Okay, so big week. Election results have come in the presidential race. Obviously, Donald Trump has been elected President of the United States. Currently, all states have reported their electoral votes. Donald Trump has won all 7 swing states, giving him 312 electoral votes. Kamala Harris got only 226. Since Donald Trump got more than 270, he is now president-elect. Right now, he is on track to win the popular vote, but though by smaller margins than was predicted earlier this week. Right now, he's sitting at about 74.7 million votes, whereas Kamala Harris is sitting at 71.1 million. So he is on track to possibly be the first Republican to win the popular vote since Bush in 2004. No, not it was, but this was one of the largest Republican victories since Reagan and 1984. Looking at the Senate, the Republicans have at least a 53 majority to the Democrats' 46. We are still waiting on Arizona to report its results to that Senate race. But the states that were the swing states and the ways they went, Montana went to the Republicans. The Republicans flipped that seat from the Democrats. They also flipped Ohio and West Virginia. They also flipped Pennsylvania away from the Democrats. But the Democrats managed to hold on to Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, and so long as it stays the way it is right now, they are looking to hold on to Arizona, as Ruben Gallego has a lead, but not a massive lead over Kari Lake in the Arizona Senate race. Nothing big in governor races. Looking at ballot measures just here in Missouri, since that's where we are right now. Missouri Amendment 2, that's still yet to have been called. Right now it's at 50.1%. Amendment 3, that was voted yes on. Missouri Amendment 5 and 6 were voted no, and Missouri Amendments 7 was voted yes on, and then Proposition A was approved. Nationwide ballot measures, the most interesting was Florida, in my opinion, as though a majority wanted to legalize abortion and weed in that state, it did not meet the threshold of 60%. I think it was like 57% voted in that. Real quick, House races. So far, not all of the House races have been called. A majority has not been reached by either party yet, but it does look like that the Republicans will hold on to the House. They are currently at 213, and the Democrats are currently at 203. I'm not sure how many races have yet to been called, but it does look like the Republicans will maintain the House of Representatives. Okay, so Nicholas, what was your reaction waking up, just seeing the news? Just let's get our reactions. What was your reaction?
Well, my reaction, based on what I saw the previous night, it was to be expected. I definitely did not expect such a sweep in all of the battleground states, though. That was a big shock to me. I thought that maybe the Democrats might have had a chance in keeping the Senate, but yeah, it was not looking good for them, and it did not turn out well for them. So,
Yeah,
expectation.
yeah. I had a slightly different reaction. I went into the night thinking both had an even shot, right? No, when I went to bed, none of the battleground states had been called. I went to bed at about 10:30. I woke up at like 2 a.m. for whatever reason, I don't know. And then I saw that they had called Pennsylvania, Georgia, and North Carolina much sooner than I think anyone had anticipated. I think we anticipated this to drag on for a couple days, at least in the presidential race. Obviously, the House race was expected to drag on a couple days. But I mean, this was over within like 10 hours. And as soon as I saw that they called Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania for Trump, I knew that that was it for Harris. As her only paths to victory included she could not win without Pennsylvania, Georgia, or North Carolina. She needed those states in order to be able to win. Uh, yeah, I had a similar reaction, which is obviously I thought that Donald Trump winning was a possibility. I thought Kamala Harris winning was a possibility. I did not think either of them getting such sweeping margins as they did was a possibility. I predicted that the Sun Belt, Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina would probably go red, but then I thought that maybe Nevada would go blue as it has done in pretty much in most elections. Hillary Clinton won it in 2016. Joe Biden won it. Barack Obama won it both times. This is the first time in a while that Nevada has gone to the Republicans, and so I figured that Nevada would at least stay blue. But yeah, I especially did not anticipate him winning the popular vote. At least he is winning the popular vote right now. California is, I believe, still only 72% reporting, but I don't think that Kamala Harris is going to be able to get 3 million votes out of the still uncounted ballots. But real quick, we're going to play a couple of interviews and listen to what some students had to say about their reactions to the election. What's your first name and your grade?
Ella, 9th.
Okay. So overall, how do you think the night went?
Pretty good.
Was it like surprising? Did you think it would go a different way, or
I thought it would be a little bit more even, and it was pretty like not one-sided, but like it was kind of like a blowout.
Right. So did you think like it would take longer to get the results, or do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought I forget his name. That Waltz guy, I didn't think his state would go against him, but I think they did.
No, Minnesota. He's from Minnesota.
So they go Democrat?
Yeah.
Oh,
Wisconsin. I think you're thinking of Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
Did your family think it was going to go the way it was, or was it also a surprise?
I don't think my family knew what was going to happen. I think they just because when it was with the Hillary person, she was winning till she lost.
Right.
So, I think they kind of just didn't know what was going to happen. It was, either or.
Right. All right, thanks. Sorry, what's your name real quick?
Ella.
All right, thank you. So what's your name and your grade?
My name is Connor, and I'm a sophomore.
All right. So how do you think the night went in general?
It was disappointing for me because, I've been raised as a left-leaning household.
Right. Were the results surprising, or did you kind of expect that to happen?
I expected it to happen. I mean, I knew that Kamala probably wasn't going to win the election from the start.
Were there any shocking moments during the night, or?
I wasn't really keeping up with it live, so I wasn't really shocked by any of it. I just woke up in the morning and checked, and I was like, "Yeah, that tracks." And
so your initial reaction was one of yeah, that makes sense. Figured that was going to happen.
Yeah, and I'm definitely not happy about it, but I knew it would happen. I can live with it, I think. I'll try my best.
Yeah, so did your family think this was what was going to happen, or was it also a surprise for them too? Not also a surprise, but was it a surprise for them?
I think we were kind of predicting what would happen, and they were all saying, yeah, as much as I want Kamala to win, none of my family thought it would happen.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So could you please say your first name and your grade?
I'm Anna McAndrew, and I'm a senior. I'm Reagan Sparks, and I'm a junior.
So looking at last night, did it go the way you thought it would go, or was it a surprise?
I feel like it went the way that I probably thought it was gonna go.
I think it could. I was pretty split with how it was gonna go, but for the most part, I thought it went the way I thought it would.
Yeah. And was this you woke up and you saw who won, or were you up to 2 a.m.?
I feel like I was following it until maybe 9:30, and then I kind of I just felt like I knew who was gonna win, and I went to bed.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I was following it for a while, and about 9:30, and then I fell asleep, and then I woke up again around midnight, and checked, and then I like couldn't go back to sleep until like 2, and so then I fell asleep and then woke up and saw the results.
So, like, looking at the people who live in your household, was it like did they think it was gonna go the way that it did, or was it also a surprise?
I think my parents really wanted it to go one way, and it didn't, but I don't think any of us really had a lot of faith in it going either way. I think it was honestly just we were waiting to see what happened.
Yeah, my family's the same. Like, they wanted it to go one way, and it didn't, and we woke up and we were all pretty disappointed, but we all kind of saw it coming. We were cautiously optimistic about it, but it just didn't go the way.
Right. So, like, other than the presidential election, there was, like, the ballot stuff. Do you know how that went? Like, how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I woke up and I was really excited about Amendment 3 being passed because I think that's really important, and I care a lot about our reproductive rights, so that's really exciting.
Yeah, that was probably the one good thing I felt like we got out of the election this year was Amendment 3 and the abortion ban being flipped in Missouri, at least, so that was pretty great. And like Anna said, I also really am confident that our reproductive rights are hopefully going to be kept the way that it is right now.
All right. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome.
So you heard those interviews, and yeah, so it was a lot of surprise. Some people anticipated it. Some people, again, were surprised by the results. I think most people were surprised by just the sweeping nature of Donald Trump's victory in this election. And yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of contemplating on the part of the Democrats about where they go now from here, since they lost every single swing state. So demographics wise and vote share wise, so in the swing states, North Carolina was about one of the ones that Donald Trump won the most handedly in. He got 51% to Kamala Harris's 47. It was a separation of about 200,000 votes, a little less than 200,000. The closest battleground state was, I believe, Michigan. Michigan or Wisconsin. In Wisconsin, Donald Trump got 49.7, Kamala Harris got 48.8. In Michigan, Donald Trump got 49.7, Kamala Harris got 48.3, so Wisconsin was the closest. Nicholas, what do you think about possibly what the vote share says about this election? What do you think?
I think the vote share of this election shows the shortcomings of, I suppose, the Democratic Party's strategy, in that they tried to pose as like a stable course, like, go the same route. Meanwhile, there was a right-winged populist on the other side, which the people found a lot more, favored towards, because like Donald Trump did play a pretty good campaign, I felt, aside from like his debate and some other aspects of it. But you can see like it definitely did pay off for him, his strategy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Congress right now looks like the Republicans look like they're going to pull off a trifecta in Congress. And so I've been seeing a lot of Democrats, they're strategizing about, how they're going to deal with the new administration, the new Congress moving forward, what they're going to do in their final 70 days as the ruling party in both the Senate and in the White House. I think this is extremely significant, and I think this is extremely significant, and because I think going forward, I think the Democrats have some strategizing to do about how to move forward, because looking at this race, the Republicans, at least in the presidential race, did not have an extremely strong ground game compared to the Democrats. The Democrats had a massive door-knocking operation, massive. I think they outraised the Trump campaign. They had a massive on-the-ground network who were like knocking on doors, etc. And the Republicans, they didn't really have much. I mean, they had, some stuff, but not a lot. And I mean, this turnout for them was largely organic. And I think that that's because the Republicans have a much stronger, I think, media network. They were going on a lot of podcasts. They were going on a lot of like things that people listen to in a normal everyday life. Like they weren't going on like cable news, which not many people, unless you're extremely politically tuned in, go to. They were going to stuff that would appear in people who don't pay attention to the election, going to that and kind of reaching out to them. And I think that Democrats moving forward will probably need to adopt a different camp media strategy when it comes to what they make their case on. Uh, Nicholas, you said we were talking about this earlier. You were talking about how this is possibly a rejection of liberalism. Do you want to kind of talk more about that?
I think the people's decision of this is not necessarily a rejection of liberalism, but of like current center left ideas of how like things should happen. Like the Democrats since Hillary Clinton, I would say, have gone on a pretty par for course type strategy where they essentially put out much the same person each time, which, like, from what we've seen, has gotten consistently pretty okay results. But the people who voted at this saw, like, what they perceived as bad economic policy by Joe Biden, which caused them to, like, listen to Trump's promises of good economic policy. Well, good economic policy, people can debate on that. And Donald Trump posed as a populist for the people person. Again, you can debate on whether he actually is, but I feel like since the Democrats did not really take that populism for the people stance, like too hard as Donald Trump has, but on the left side of things, I think that negatively impacted their election results. And if they chose like the Bernie Sanders example, for example, they might have been able to have a better chance, even possibly win this election.
Right. I wouldn't entirely disagree with you on that, but I would push back on a couple of things. The first thing is I think Democrats lost this election for a couple of reasons. The first one is that around the world in most heavily industrialized nations, the incumbent party has lost. For whatever reason, the incumbent party, when it is on the ballot, did not do well. In Britain, the Conservative lost to the Labour Party. In France, the center-left party that Macron is a part of did not get did not get the vote share that it had hoped for. So it created a collaboration with far-left parties to kind of stave off far right. In the European Union Parliament, the far right gained a little ground there. Center-left, which was the incumbent party, lost a bit of ground in Japan. The incumbent party, which has ruled Japan since largely since the end of World War II, lost ground there. They still have I think, a majority, but they did not get as much as they were hoping for. And so while I do think that the Democrats possibly underestimated the role that the economy played in this, I do think it's important to note that across the world there has been a rejection of the incumbent party for whatever reason. It's possibly shifting to a political environment where being an incumbent, which used to be essentially like it meant that it was your election to lose, now is either possibly a net neutral or possibly even now a net negative in this election. I think that the Democrats have probably the second reason I think that the Democrats possibly lost was they did not anticipate the large role that the economy would play. And I think the third reason is, quite frankly, and this was, I don't think you can underestimate the possible role that misogyny played in this. I mean, obviously there were,
and racism.
yeah, possibly misogyny and racism. You probably can't underestimate the role that played in this election. Obviously, there are probably a bunch of people who went to the polls or did not go to the polls for various issues, reasons, etc. But I do think that there is probably a misogynistic part or possibly racist part to it, which I don't think should probably be overlooked. Going forward, I'm not sure. I think there was also a concern about Donald Trump is not a typical politician, or at least he's not viewed as a typical politician. Kamala Harris was viewed as a typical politician, and I think that people did not want a typical politician to be reelected. And so I think going forward, the Democrats, if the strategy, if the political landscape remains the same and people do not want people who appear as typical politicians to be on the ballot, then I think that that is going to possibly need to impact who the Democrats want to put on the top of the ticket in 2028. For example, if there is still a rejection of political establishment, of maintaining the status quo, of not wanting a typical politician, then I do not think running someone like Gavin Newsom or Josh Shapiro will be to their benefit. I think that if this is still the case, they would possibly need to run a John Fetterman or something like that if the political landscape is the same. But of course, this could just be a one-off in a weird year for incumbents. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I would agree with all of that, except for the thing about incumbent parties you mentioned, because all of the incumbent parties you mentioned there were like center-left parties who, like, especially in the case of the Conservative Party, did not handle their situation well and did not listen to or police their bases, and so they lost the election or had to give concessions in order to keep control. I think, to your last point, I think that, yeah, the Democrats do need definitely to hire, or not hire, put forward a someone who doesn't represent the past politicians that they've proposed. They don't necessarily need someone who is that type, because, you know, however, I think someone at least who can act like that type, act like Bernie Sanders, like I mentioned before, they would be able to do better and possibly retake the office.
So what you're saying is like a typical politician, but who has an ability to reach out and connect with typical everyday people.
Yes.
Right. What? Wait, I'm sorry. Did you say that the Conservative Party was a center left?
I mean, not all of them were, but a lot of them were close to the center, center
Yeah,
right,
that
center
because
left.
the Conservative Party is a center right,
yeah.
center party. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would agree that most of the parties that lost are center left, and I don't know, because it seems hard to believe that worldwide there has been a rejection of uh, liberal ideas and such. Because on such a massive scale as this, it seems more likely that people, for whatever reason, whether it be for economic reasons, whether it be for various conflicts in the world, etc., just do not like. Because I mean, most people in exit polls said that they did not like the direction the country was headed in, whether it be for economic, diplomatic, foreign policy, etc. And I feel like that it's more likely that it was just an anti-incumbent feeling around the world than a flat-out rejection of liberal or center-left ideas. I do think that I feel like I've seen a lot of people write this, and I think I'd have to agree that the Democrats have kind of lost this idea of being the party of the working blue collar person, and that Republicans have been able to put together, at least in this election, a coalition of blue collar, uh, minorities, etc. And the Democrats have kind of lost ground. I mean, Kamala Harris, not Hillary Clinton. Kamala Harris lost every demographic except for college-educated women in this election, and Donald Trump gained ground in virtually every demographic, whether it be black men, rich people, middle class people, Hispanic men, Hispanics in general. he gained ground on every demographic, and I think that is something that Democrats are going to have to look at going into the 26 midterms and 2028 presidential election. Okay, so real quick, before we end this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about what the incoming Trump presidency might mean for various things. So the first thing is foreign policy. So Donald Trump has expressed that he would be able to end the war in Ukraine within 24 hours, possibly cutting off aid to Ukraine, or at least cutting off giving it to them. He'd possibly be open to selling it to them. I'm not sure. He hasn't really laid out specific plans for Ukraine, but it's Ukraine is kind of up in the air right now, and they probably do not feel a great deal of certainty in how the U.S. will continue its support. Economically, the main part of his campaign when it came to economics was imposing tariffs on either all sectors or most sectors, which a lot of economic scholars have predicted could cost the average American family, I think it was like $3,000 a year. I'm not sure. That's just a prediction. The stock market seems to be reacting positively. I think that is because, had Donald Trump won, I think there was a concern that he would possibly not concede the election. And so I think now that he has won, there is a degree of certainty about what will happen in terms of U.S. politics between now and January 20th. After that, it's up in the air, but between now and January 20th, there is a pretty good idea of what will happen.
Yeah, I think that reasoning for the stock market, like benefiting from this, is very reasonable. If Trump hadn't conceded the election, if he were to have lost, then that could have meant some very bad things had the potential to happen. Like,
Right.
Not just January 6th, but potentially something bigger.
Right. There would possibly, depending upon how he reacted, there could have possibly been civil unrest if he had not conceded the election, etc., etc. Okay. Thank you so much for listening to Simplifying the State. We'll be back next time with just kind of breaking down some more of Trump's policies, what that could possibly mean going into January 2025. What possibly his first 100 days will look at, what the Republicans might want to do with their possibly new gained trifecta in the government, and all that stuff. All right, see you next time.